I mean, usually it's like, oh, and I just move on. I don't usually react. But last week, I was reacting. I didn't lance the boil. I didn't recognize. Because we're all upset. I'm upset. Barack Obama's upset. He'll say that he's not upset, but you know, everybody is. If you believe what you're saying, how can you not be upset? I'm upset. The truth doesn't seem to matter to anybody anymore. You know, there's you, but what? I was in church yesterday. I was upset at church. We were talking in the second hour. I go 3 hours on Sunday. Good God Almighty. So I go to church. And in the second hour, we were talking about this circle of, it's a cycle. It happens every time. It happened with the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the British. I guess the Soviet doesn't really fit. Will it happen to us? We were just talking about Moses and the Jews and how they got out to freedom. And it always is the same cycle. There's freedom. Then there's an apostasy, an unpegging from the truth. And it's usually coupled with apathy. Nobody really cares. They're happy, they're free, everything's great. That leads them into bondage to where they humble themselves, and then there's the Moses moment. And there's a restoration of the truth, and they become free again. Well, I got to tell you something. I raised my hand about halfway through, and I said, can we use a real-life application here? Where are we in this cycle? And is there anybody that has thought, has it ever happened that you can go from freedom to this stage, because I think we're in between these two stages, that have gone from this stage to this stage? Is there a way to short-circuit the system? I was upset because I care. And I don't know why we're not having real conversations. The ship's taken on water, man. Do you see the headlines? This is the story of America. These are all, have you like clicked on the Drudge Report? Like every weekend I'll click on the Drudge Report and I'll look at it and I'll be like, this is like, if I would have told you that all of these stories would be happening at once in the last 3 weeks, you would have said I was insane. It's like the book of Revelation, quite honestly. I saw the sinkhole and I thought, that can't be real. That's got to be a Halliburton thing or something. What is that? So, as I said, I don't swear anymore. I gave it up with drinking. I gave it up with sleeping in on Sundays. It was hard for me because I was very good at swearing. I was. It's an art form for me. But last week, I noticed that I was using foul language. People would come up to me in the street, and I'd actually say something back to them. And I was shocked at the time. The words were coming out, and I was like, wow, that's not you, but wow, that felt good. I felt justified. I felt they deserved it. And so I did it. I should have known, because I've seen Star Wars enough. Do you remember that? Do you remember that scene where the Emperor is sitting in that big spooky chair and Luke is, he's fighting his father, and the Emperor just goes, yes, give in to your dark side. Release your anger, and the transformation to the dark side will be complete. Good, good. You remember that? That is the scene that I think a lot of people in America are going through. I thought it was really, I went back and I watched it, and I thought it was really interesting that he said transformation, not restoration, your transformation will be complete. We have to ask this question about ourselves and our country. On our country, we have to ask, who are we? Who are we? Who do we want to be? And it's the same question that we have to ask ourselves. Who am I? Who do I want to be? Not who I'm allowing myself to become, not the country I'm just allowing it to slip into, but who are we? When I gave the commencement speech at Liberty University, part of the advice that I gave to the students was, don't let life just wash over you wave by wave, because I got news for you, man. You're not a rock. And even the strongest rock eventually is just broken down to sand. You're not a rock. And life is just going to crash down on you over and over again. Your job is not just to stand there. Your job is to question with boldness Not just the stuff that you don't think is true, the stuff you do think is true. Ask the toughest question you can. Know what's true, because that wave comes in, you better have an anchor. We're supposed to explore. We're supposed to create who we are, not just let it happen. Create who you are. I know it can be done because I did it. I'm a different person than I was 15 years ago. But here's what happened to me. I forgot. It's a never-ending process. Life is wave after wave after wave. And last week, I just let the waves crash into me, not recognizing the waves anymore. I went downstairs and I apologized to my wife. And then I asked her out on a date. She said yes, surprisingly, because she could go out on a date with someone much more handsome than me. And I said, let's go see Robin Hood. I've never seen a good Robin Hood movie, and I heard iffy things about this. I like this movie. This is a pre-Robin Hood story. It's a time when Richard the Lionheart died after bankrupting his country. Then his brother, the new king, comes along. He doesn't care. He's fallen into an alliance with enemies of his own country, and that alliance is turning everybody in England against each other. Okay? I thought, whoa, there's no parallels here, huh? It's the best version of the story I've seen. Long story short, towards the end, I'm not going to wreck anything. He turns into Robin Hood. Okay, I wrecked it. At one point, the King of France, who was, working on dividing the whole country, he's sailing over and landing his soldiers on the beaches of Great Britain. In the time that he launched his ship and arrived over to Great Britain, Robin Hood had brought his people of England together as one. And the King of France is on the ship, and he releases all the soldiers and everybody else, and they're all just slaughtered on the beach. And the king feels he's been misled, and he knows he's going to lose. So at this point, he says, send the signal. Turn the ships around. Because he knows the soldiers can't win against a united England. He then says this. This doesn't look like a country that is fighting against itself. We'll have to return another day. We have to find what we unite on. I realized that the frustration, anger, whatever it is, it was growing in me and possibly growing in you and Barack Obama and everybody else in America because we care. It is the power to destroy. We'll all be, Republican, Democrat, Independent, we will all be responsible for the loss of our country. I also realized that the apology that I made for the president and to all those who I disappointed, I put it up on the internet right away on Friday, I knew that it wasn't enough. But I didn't know what until I heard that last line about fighting within ourselves. I realized what I was supposed to do. Times are changing, and so must we. We have to raise the bar higher. Everything's about to change. And because of that, we're faced with a choice. Because these waves are going to come in and hammer us. America's in need of a leader. I don't know who that person is. I can't find him in Washington. Maybe it's you. I don't know. It might be you, might be your son, might be your daughter. I don't know. All I know is I'm supposed to be here and I'm supposed to do what I do every day. But that is going to change. Because the more, what is it, the old Sufi or Rumi saying, that which you gaze upon, you become. The more I gaze on this problem, the more I feel like I could become it. So what do we do? I'll tell you next.